Hey everyone, welcome back to Geek Strong. In today's video, it's all about the Star Wars figures from 1977 to 1985 behind me. My journey, some of the decisions that I've made along the way, and a few stories, and some goods and bads, some highs and lows. But what do you say? Let's do this! So if you've been following my channel, you know that I've been collecting pretty much all my life. I went from playing with toys to displaying my toys. And I remember in like 7th grade, I would collect the Smurfs. I would go to like pharmacies and purchase them. I would do some trades at school. I was collecting He-Man and Star Wars. So Star Wars, a lot of my vintage figures behind me were lost. I think what happened was they probably got tossed in the trash by mistake. Probably left my toys out one time and my mom got mad and just threw them away. A lot of people threatened, but it actually happened to me. So I was collecting still a little bit, so for Star Wars, and I did pick up Jabba the Hutt right over here. This is mine from when I was a kid. I think I was probably 8th grade, 9th grade when I purchased that, because I graduated in 87 and this came out in 83. So I'm assuming if they were still in the stores in 85 maybe, I was collecting between 8th, 9th grade for Star Wars. And also the Size Snoodles band, the Max Rebo band, those were mine as a kid. I don't think many more were my originals. I didn't start collecting the original Star Wars until I believe the early 90s. Now, before 95 came out, before The Power of the Force, I was pretty much probably more than halfway done this run. I would go to toy shows. I would get magazines and order some of the figures through a magazine. This is before eBay. Actually, my yak face that I got was through a magazine, and I believe I paid $85 for it. Crazy. I remember picking up a blue snaggletooth at one of my local shops. I believe I paid $65 for him. And so I've had a lot of these figures from the early 90s. So for me, they're not grails anymore because I've had them for so long. I've had them for, 30 years? Yeah, right? 90, yeah, like 30 years. That's crazy. But for a lot of you just got them in your collection or you're still looking for them, so they have become grails. But when you have something in your collection for so long, it's like, you don't appreciate it as much, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but it's true. You still love some of the things that were your childhood, but if you get them as an adult, they might not be as a grail piece anymore, if that makes any sense. But anyways, let's continue. So I moved out of the house. Didn't work out, so I moved back in. Now, we had 5 kids in the house, and 3 of us still lived at home now. So when I moved out, I lost my bedroom. There were only 3 bedrooms in the house. Mom and Dad had one, and the kids shared 2 other bedrooms. So I lost my bedroom. So now my bedroom becomes the living room. So now I'm going to flea markets and stuff like that, and I'm buying Star Wars figures. So I'm displaying my collection of Star Wars figures in the living room on a table, and my run has begun. So this is a journey on my collection. We'll take a look, and as we get to certain figures that are missing or spots that are empty, we'll talk about it. And here is one right now. Vinyl Cape Jawa. Now, I purchased this Vinyl Cape Jawa, which is not an original. This was a reproduction cape put on a vintage Jawa. Now, I purchased this in Las Vegas. So in 2011, 2012, my family and I, we went to Las Vegas. and it was a fun trip, man. I had such a great time. But I went to two cool stores, and if you watch Pawn Stars, you know who Johnny is, and he is from Toy Shack. So I met Johnny. That was pretty awesome. And then there was a new up and coming store called Rogue Toys, and Steve was the owner.
Steve and Crystal Johnston are collectors. After years of researching and falling in love with their own fandoms in 2011, they scraped together enough money to open the first Rogue Toys, a vintage collectible video game and toy store in Las Vegas, Nevada.
He was actually just still putting toys in his store, setting up displays and stuff like that. I purchased some cool items there. I got 2 Mego Star Trek figures. I believe it was 2 of them. I picked up the V doll from the TV series, which is awesome. A Perseus from Clash of the Titans. Unfortunately, I lost his sword somewhere in this room. The sword is, and I don't think I could ever find it again. Oh, it's crazy. But and also a couple vintage Ghostbuster figures. So really cool. I got that Jawa there with the reproduction cape. So that figure kind of meant a little bit more to me than you would know, because it was a family trip. And we had a great time, but Steve was cool. And I told Steve, I said, I want your autograph because I know what's going to happen, because Pawn Stars is basically right across the street. You are going to become the new toy guy for that store.
Let me call someone who knows something about this, sort of out of my realm. I'm not sure how many adults will spend money on these things, so I called on my toy expert, Steve. Hopefully he can tell me there's a big Thundercat following that'll make it worth my while.
Got a call from the guys to come over and check out some Thundercats toys. As soon as I walk in and I see who the collector is, and I'm like, this guy has to be a Thundercats purist without a doubt.
Sure enough, he was. So, unfortunately, I ended up trading that Jawa for a Grail piece in my collection. That's probably one of the toy regrets that I have getting rid of, but I figured it was a cool piece that I could trade towards this item here, which was the Marvel World playset, and I'll tell you that story in a bit. But yeah, so that's the story of the Jawa vinyl cape. Just the other week, I purchased a custom vinyl cape Jawa from Stan Solo. It's got a custom vinyl cape, custom Jawa, and the custom blaster. It's going to look great in that empty spot in my cabinet. Also, we have a custom Stan Solo, Han Solo, and Stormtrooper disguise. This was a well-needed figure in the vintage collection, but never made. This guy looks awesome. Stan Solo did an amazing job. The figure feels vintage, looks vintage, and it's a great piece that I absolutely love in my collection. Look at that. Looks really cool. Now here's another awesome figure that was never made. Grand Moff Tarkin. So Hasbro released this in a board game back in, I think it was 2019. Awesome. I did have a figure in this spot, but now it's empty, and here is the story. Blue Snaggletooth. Now, as I said before, I purchased the blue Snaggletooth at a local shop for about $65. It was a great figure, had some flaws to it. It wasn't perfect, but it was a cool piece. And it is a grail piece for a lot of people. And for me, I've had it for so long, it really is just another character. And for me, that figure, that character doesn't mean as much to me as like a vintage Chewbacca or a vintage Han Solo, or my favorite figure of all time is Hammerhead, and I'm sure it's your favorite figure too. But so I know a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? The blue Snaggletooth, it's a grail piece, you need it. And well, I've had it in my collection for so long, it doesn't, there are more important, well, not important, but there are bigger grail pieces that I would love to have in my collection and possibly could never get in my collection unless I did a trade. And sure enough, this item came up in a store, and I've wanted this figure for so long, and I knew I'd never be able to own it because it's so expensive. My local shop had one, and it was mint. I mean, not a flaw on it, at least that I could find. The tail was still intact, no broken pieces, and it even came with a Perseus. And you know who I'm talking about. It's the Kraken. I've wanted a Kraken for so long. When I saw it in the store, I'm like, there's no way I can pay for this. And I was afraid that if I didn't act fast, I would never be able to own this thing. Because the chances of me finding it in the wild and being able to trade for it also is rare. So if you go to a toy show, you might not be able to trade. You're probably gonna have to do cash, and I don't have that kind of cash to throw around for an item like that. It was expensive, but it was minty, so I wanted it, and my chance to get it was to show them, because you can't walk into a vintage shop and say, hey, I want that grail piece there, that Kraken, and I will trade you 100 common Funko Pops. They don't want that. They want something equally as cool, vintage, if you can. So I am all about helping local shops, because now I'm able to go to these local shops and walk in and just browse, or if these stores don't exist, I'm stuck with just Walmarts and Targets. So I do all I can to help support it by purchasing and trading. And I don't want to trade just common stuff. I'd like to give them some grail pieces that I've had my time with. I mean, all this stuff, as people say, I'm just borrowing this stuff. This stuff is going to be passed on to somebody else someday. I mean, it's not going to come with me when I go. So I don't mind letting it go now and passing it on to possibly you. You might have an opportunity to get that blue snaggletooth into your collection. Why? Because I brought it to a store for them to sell. And sure, I could sell it on eBay and make more money than trading it. But again, I like to help out the local shops that I can go to and enjoy. So I'm all about that, helping fellow collectors and local shops. So that's my story on the blue snaggletooth.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain.
So what better figure to fill in that spot than everyone's favorite snitch, everyone's favorite spy, is Garen Dan. This figure is awesome. This was from Stan Solo, and I got a good deal on it carded because the bubble had a crack in it. But he's not staying in the bubble anyways. He's coming out, and he's going to go in that blue snaggletooth spot, which this figure should have been released back in the day, but never was. So looks amazing. It's going to look great in my collection. And yeah, look at this guy. Perfect. I absolutely love this. Great detail. The card is awesome too. Almost don't want to take him off the card, but this is the reason why I picked him up. And just for a couple dollars more, I can get the card. So, but we're going to take him off the card. We're going to put him in my display case. But first, we're going to take a closer look at him. He comes with an accessory, and I believe this is like a cell phone or something like that, where he used to call the Empire and tell them that he spotted the droids. So there he is. I think he fills in that spot just perfectly. So here is another retro style figure from Hasbro. This is Luke Skywalker in his snowspeeder outfit. I actually like this one. I thought they did a great job with it. I know he gets a lot of heat, but I like it. I think it looks awesome. So here's the rest of the figures, and everybody else is vintage. So here are the figures from 1983 and a few from 1985. And this is the story of Yak Face. Oh yes, Yak Face. Yak Face is a cool character. I mean, Joe Camel, the cigarette guy. Very cool figure, but again, it's Yak Face, and I never had one as a kid. Got it as an adult. Purchased it from a magazine for like $85, like I said. But it is a grail piece for a lot of people to complete in their collection, and he was for me also. I've had him for 30 years, and even though he's cool, he doesn't hit that nostalgic part for me, if that's how you want to phrase it. I never had one as a kid, so I don't remember playing with it. I just remember buying it as an adult. And although he is a cool piece to have in my collection, or had in my collection, there were many more grail pieces that I would love to have more than that Yak Face. And some of these toys, the grail pieces, are toys that I had as a kid and are extremely hard to find. I've never seen one in the wild, and even searching on eBay, you just don't find it. You might find some pieces, and the pieces are extremely expensive. So this item that I traded Yak Face for, and a few other items, and because Yak Face was, when I traded Yak Face, he didn't skyrocket into price. This is before the pandemic. I don't know why I did the quotations, but this is before the pandemic. And so he was probably worth, I think, 300, I want to say. Maybe 275 he might have been worth at the time. So anyway, so I'm at work, and I'm just scrolling through Facebook, and I always check my local shops, vintage shops, to see if they have anything new. And luckily, perfect timing, they posted an item and my jaw dropped. Now, we had this as a kid. I believe it was my brother's. He was a huge Marvel collector, and I love Spider-Man and Hulk and all that. We used to have all the Migos, but I think most of that stuff was probably my brother's that I got to play with still. But I remember the Marvel World playset. It's the Marvel World playset. The Marvel World playset comes with everything you see here. Some assembly required. New from Amsco. The Marvel World playset from 1975. So I was born in 1969. So I was 6 years old, and I still remember this thing. And talking to my brother still to this day, he still talks about that, how much he would love to have this in his collection. Well, they got one at my local shop, Collectiques, and it looked good. It looked mint, all complete, and I had to have it. And I wanted to show them how much I wanted this. And I couldn't just, so I texted him because I had his phone number, and I told him what I wanted right away. I said, I'm going to trade you a vintage Yak Face for that and some other items. This is how much I want this Marvel World playset. Is I am willing to trade you a grail piece for a lot of people, and I know you can make the money. I wasn't texting all this stuff, but I knew if I showed him that I was going to trade him a Yak Face, that it would make him say, oh, okay, I'm going to put this aside for Dean. I'm not going to sell it. So that's what I was hoping, because again, the clock is ticking. In my mind, it's like any second somebody could walk into that shop and purchase that from me, and I would probably never have another opportunity to own the Marvel World playset. So I needed to act fast, and I wanted to show him how serious I was. So that night, I went home, I grabbed my Yak Face and a few other items, and the other item was that Jawa vinyl cape. And I think I even had to put in cash on also, because when you trade at a local shop, they're not going to give you, a swap value. They're not going to give me $300 for what they could sell it for. They might give you half for trade value. So I probably got like $150 from them towards that Marvel World playset, and that was a little bit more than that, but it wasn't priced. I'm not going to tell you how much I paid, but just in case my wife's watching. But but I knew it was worth more than they were asking, and a few $100s more than what they were asking in my mind. I would have paid. I had a price in mind of what I was going to pay for it, and it was a few $100s less than what they were that I was thinking. So I jumped on it, man. I brought my yak face, happy. I skipped it over. There you go. Goodbye, yak face. I had my time with it, with you, and again, for a local shop to have a yak face, it'll bring attention. I mean, in my mind, is if they post that on Facebook, this is a serious store, man. They get some good stuff, so maybe it'll bring more attention. More people will go there, purchase, and that's what I like to do. So if you walk into a shop and you see a Shogun Godzilla, or a Kraken, or a Marvel World playset, you're gonna tell others that this store is not joking around, man. They get some good pieces. So that's what I like to do. I like to help out. I'll bring them some good pieces. I've actually brought my Razor Crest there, traded for that, because again, the Razor Crest it's a cool ship, but again, it's something that I'm more collecting original trilogy, and I'm trying to back off on modern movie. I love the series and stuff like that, but as far as collecting it, I want to collect stuff that I remember as a child or a kid, not so much as an adult. And that's just the way I collect, mainly because I don't have space. I would love to have that Razor Crest in here, but I have no space. I would have to either have the Razor Crest, or have space for the Kraken, the Dungeons and Dragons Fortress of Fang I have, and these pieces take up space. The Inhumanoids, Shogun Godzilla, they take up space. So between all of that, took up the space for the Razor Crest. So what's gonna go? Razor Crest or that stuff? See you later. See you later, Razor Crest. But anyways, so I traded, and I got the Marvel World playset. So I definitely have no regrets. And again, when that opportunity came about, this is when Hasbro was doing the retro collection, the first wave for Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Darth Vader, that first wave of the retro collection. So in my mind, I'm like, man, is that going to bring down the value of these original figures? What if they bring out Yak Face? So now my Yak Face that is worth a couple $100, is it going to bring it down in value? I mean, this was before I started doing YouTube and in this community and stuff like that. So maybe other people would have said, no, don't worry about that. It's not going to touch the value, which probably is the case. But in my mind was, I'm fine if Hasbro re-released a Yak Face. I would buy a $10 Yak Face that is from 2000 and whatever, 2020 when those came out, I believe it was. I would rather, did it come out? Maybe it came out in 2020, maybe it was before 2020. Anyways, well, I don't even know why I care about the year, but the first wave of that. So if they came out with a new Yak Face, I would sell that other Yak Face and make it a couple $100 and put the new Yak Face, because again, Yak Face is just a background character. It doesn't mean that much to me as much as a figure that I had as a young child. So that's the story of my Yak Face. So the Yak Face that is now in my collection is actually a Stan Solo Yak Face I bought years ago, and I think he looks amazing. He was really inexpensive, so it's a really cool addition. For the replacement, looks identical to the vintage, so I'm fine with that. I like Stan Solo creations, and I had Yak Face for over 30 years, so this is a good replacement. The rest of these figures are vintage, and I've had them for many years, which I'm lucky, man, because a lot of these figures are super expensive now. So this Max Rebo set was mine as a kid, but I have 2 empty spots in. Look who can fill it in. So we have Ula from Stan Solo. This is a must own because you know Hasbro's not going to make this figure. And she looks beautiful. Looks vintage. Oh, look at that. Great sculpts, great paint job. The outfit she's wearing has so much detail in it for a small little vintage style figure. It looks great. And then another figure that they'd never make. And here is Princess Leia in her slave outfit. Jabba's prisoner. Looks great. Has some soft goods, just like they would have done back in 1983 and 1985. Love it. I love her hair. I love that it's plastic too. Her hair. The outfit looks amazing. I mean, this looks spot on to what Kenna would have made back in the day. And I am just so happy to have this one in my collection. So there they are. They look amazing with the band. Awesome. So I do like to display some of my vintage figures with some Left Coast Graphics pins right behind them. Left Coast Graphics, enamel pins, patches, stickers, posters. Collect them all before they're all gone. So this vintage R2-D2 pop-up lightsaber was the last figure I needed in my collection. I paid like $125 on eBay, which is a great deal. I recently found a beater pop-up lightsaber R2 at a local shop that I'm going to restore in a future video. Here are 3 custom figures that I made. We have animated Boba, 3PO, and R2-D2. I used beater figures to make them look like they were vintage figures, and I thought they came out great. Here's a look at before I put the new figures in, and here's a look after I put the figures in. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? So that's it. That's the story of my collection behind me. I'm really happy to have some Stan Solo figures in there, some ones that replaced some of the figures that I traded for, and some new ones. So I'm really excited with my collection. I like the way it went. I did have to make some tough choices through the years to get some other pieces, but those were my choices and I'm happy about it. So let me know in the comments, would you have made choices like that? Do you agree with me or do you disagree with me? Please don't hate me too much in the comments. But anyways, so I do have memberships on the channel now and some super thanks and chats and stuff like that. So if you want to help out the channel in that way, that would be fantastic. If not, just watching and giving a thumbs up is really appreciated. And I enjoyed this. This was a fun video. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, do all that good stuff. Remember, we are all Geek Strong. Take care, everyone.